In the Philippines, scandals tied to power and politics often shake the nation to its core. But few cases have captured as much attention, speculation, and outrage as the story of Alice Guo, the former mayor of Bamban, Tarlac, accused of weaving a web of corruption, human trafficking, and money laundering that reached far beyond her small town. From questionable companies to international escapes, and from family ties to accomplices who surrendered one by one, her case has become one of the most infamous political scandals in recent memory. This is Pinoy true crime story, and tonight we uncover the truth behind Alice Guo and her accomplices. A story of power, betrayal, and the never-ending question of whether justice in the Philippines is truly blind. The story of Alice Leal Guo is one that reads like a crime thriller, except that it isn't fiction. It is the story of a public official who rose to power in a small town in Tarlac, only to become the face of one of the most sensational scandals in the Philippines in recent years. Alice Leal Guo, also known by another name, Guo Huaping, was once the mayor of Bamban, Tarlac. To many in the province, she seemed like a young leader with potential. Her soft-spoken demeanor, her promises of progress, and her outwardly calm presence gave her the appearance of someone who wanted nothing more than to serve her town. But, as the years unfolded, the façade began to crack. Behind the quiet smile and political speeches, investigators began uncovering a trail of deceit, power, and crime that stretched far beyond the borders of Bamban. Her dismissal from office was just the beginning. What followed was an avalanche of allegations: human trafficking, money laundering, identity fraud, estafa, falsification of documents, misuse of property, and corruption at a scale that shocked the nation. Authorities say that between 2020 and 2024, Alice Guo, together with a tightly woven circle of family members and business partners, built an empire worth millions. The Anti-Money Laundering Council, the National Bureau of Investigation, and the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission began piecing together the puzzle. And what they found was staggering. At the heart of the case were a series of companies. On paper, they looked like legitimate businesses: real estate firms, construction developers, suppliers of goods, and even gaming-related enterprises tied to the controversial world of pogos. But according to prosecutors, these companies were nothing more than carefully crafted fronts. Hongsheng, Zunyuan, Baofu Land Development, and others were flagged as conduits for illegal funds. The system was simple, yet effective. Money would be funneled into one company, layered into accounts of another, and eventually used to purchase assets, properties, cars, even aircraft. To the outside world, these were signs of a thriving business empire. But investigators argued that it was nothing but money laundering designed to wash dirty funds until they looked clean. Among the assets traced to Guo and her network were sprawling properties, expensive vehicles, and even a helicopter that was later included in motions for asset seizure. But the scandal didn't end with finances. One of the darkest elements of the case involved human trafficking. Victims, many of them foreign nationals, were allegedly recruited under false pretenses and forced into abusive working conditions in compounds linked to her network. Guo herself was charged with qualified human trafficking before the Pasig Regional Trial Court. In court, she stood before the judge and entered a plea. Not guilty. But her denial did little to calm the outrage. Her legal troubles only deepened as questions of identity emerged. Who exactly was Alice Guo? Where was she really born? Was she even who she claimed to be? Investigators uncovered inconsistencies in her birth records and citizenship. The mystery of her true identity became a national obsession, with theories and speculations running wild. As the Senate called her to hearings, hoping to extract answers, she began to avoid appearances. Subpoenas were issued, contempt citations were filed. Still, she evaded them. And then, she disappeared. What followed was something out of a movie. Authorities allege that in mid-2024, Alice Guo fled the Philippines by sea. Instead of boarding a plane like any ordinary traveler, she boarded a yacht. Along the way, she transferred to smaller boats, slipping past maritime checkpoints. Her escape route allegedly took her through Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. It was a daring move, one that painted her as not just an accused public official, but as a fugitive on the run. Her escape, however, was short-lived. Through international cooperation, she was eventually located in Tangerang, Jakarta, Indonesia. There, she was arrested. The mayor who once sat in office in Bamban was now behind bars in a foreign country, awaiting her return to the Philippines to face the weight of her cases. Meanwhile, her accomplices began surfacing. One after another, individuals tied to the companies and to Alice Guo herself surrendered to the NBI. Reports said that at least 7 of her alleged cohorts turned themselves in, hoping to cooperate or defend themselves in court. Among them were Sheila Leal Guo, Catherine Cassandra, Cassie Leong, Jian Zhongguo, Lin Wenyi, and Saimen Guo. Some saw their charges dismissed. Others remained deep in legal battles. The NBI also filed separate complaints against Alice Guo: falsification of public documents, estafa, and graft charges under the Anti-Graft Practices Act. One case even involved a controversial property acquisition in Pangasinan, where Guo allegedly engaged in fraudulent practices to gain control of land. By now, the scope of her alleged crimes had grown massive. Reports cited 62 separate counts of money laundering, alongside multiple human trafficking charges, graft, estafa, and falsification of documents. Government agencies began filing forfeiture proceedings to freeze her bank accounts and seize her properties. Among the assets targeted were not only cars and land, but even the Baofu compound, believed to be central to her operations. The scandal grew into a national spectacle. Senate hearings turned into political theater. Investigators and prosecutors revealed layer after layer of her alleged schemes. Journalists uncovered new connections almost weekly. And through it all, ordinary Filipinos followed the story with shock and disbelief. Because at the heart of it was a haunting set of questions. How did someone like Alice Guo rise so quickly to power? How did she build an empire of companies without more scrutiny? Were local authorities complicit? Were government agencies turning a blind eye? And perhaps the biggest question of all, just how many lives were destroyed in the process? As of now, Alice Guo maintains her pleas of not guilty. She denies the charges. She offers little explanation for her escape, and she has remained mostly silent on the deeper mysteries of her past. But the trials are far from over. Pre-trial hearings are expected. Plea bargains may come. Accomplices may testify. And the story of Alice Guo, instead of fading away, may only grow more tangled as new revelations come to light. This case is a reminder of how fragile trust in leadership can be. A mayor, sworn to serve her town, now stands accused of crimes that stretch across borders and across lives. A web of accomplices, companies, and money that prosecutors are still trying to untangle. And a nation watching closely, wondering if justice will be served. Or if, as so often happens in scandals involving the powerful, the truth will be buried beneath influence and wealth. The name Alice Guo has become more than a name. It has become a symbol of corruption, of betrayal, of the dangers of power left unchecked. Her story is far from finished. And in the Philippines, her case will remain one of the most infamous political scandals of its time. The case of Alice Guo isn't just about one mayor accused of corruption. It's about the system that allowed her to rise, the accomplices who helped her build an empire, and the victims left in the shadows of greed and power. Her story continues in courtrooms, in government hearings, and in the headlines. But what remains uncertain is whether justice will truly prevail. This has been Pinoy True Crime Story. If you found this episode compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that expose the darker side of crime and politics in the Philippines.